hear me sigh. I never
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your 2016 American Academy of Nursing Living Legends. Linda Burns Bolton. Ann Walbert Burgess. Colleen Conway Welch. Joyce J. Fitzpatrick. And Martha N. Hill. Please welcome back to the stage the President of the American Academy of Nursing, Bobby Berkowitz, and President-elect Karen Cox.
So how was dinner? Yeah. Ladies? Oh, in 1994, the American Academy of Nursing wanted to recognize fellows who had made unique, outstanding, and long-lasting contributions to both the nursing profession and to society. And since that time, we have honored 99 distinguished individuals as living legends. I would like to take a moment to recognize those of you in the audience tonight. So, with those selected from 2015 to 2010, please stand. Those from 2009 to 2000 also please stand. And finally, those of you who were selected as living legends in the 1990s, please stand or wave your hands. Thank you. You are our role models for the past, the present, and the future. Now, tonight, the list of legends grows to over 100. So this evening, we are thrilled to recognize 5 living legends whose vision and leadership and contributions have shaped and advanced the nursing profession. It is my pleasure to introduce tonight's first 2016 living legend, Linda Burns Bolton. Dr. Linda Burns Bolton's career exemplifies the meaning of a nurse leader. She is a researcher, a nurse executive who believes in the collective power of professional nursing organizations. Her vision for nursing inspires and motivates others to influence change. Dr. Burns Bolton is Vice President for Nursing, Chief Nursing Officer, and Director of Nursing Research at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles, California. She is also one of the principal investigators at the Burns and Allen Research Institute at Cedars-Sinai. Her expertise includes nursing and patient care outcomes, cultural diversity and inclusion within the health professionals, improving organizational performance and population health outcomes. Dr. Burns Bolton frequently shares that she became a nurse out of her desire to care for others, as well as her desire to reduce health disparities and inequities. Through her leadership as past president of the National Black Nurses Association, the American Academy of Nursing, and the American Organization of Nurse Executives, Dr. Burns Bolton has not only advanced changes which are reducing health disparities, she has also mentored and inspired hundreds of future nurse leaders to follow in her footsteps. She has also recognized that nursing expertise expanded well beyond solely nursing organizations and institutions. In 2009, Dr. Burns Bolton applied her extensive clinical work on population health and equitable care by serving as vice chair of the Institute of Medicine Commission on the Future of Nursing. The October 2010 release of the National Academy of Medicine, IOM's report on the future of nursing, Leading Change, Advancing Health, made Linda Burns Bolton known to nurses at all levels of this country and abroad. She also chaired the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation Committee on Transforming Care at the Bedside and the Veterans Nursing Commission. She serves on the Board of Trustees of the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation and Case Western Reserve University. A renowned champion of community nursing, Dr. Burns Bolton's sphere of influence extends well beyond other health policy leaders and into communities where people live. Dr. Burns Bolton's New Beginnings project in Los Angeles grew out of her passion for parent-child nursing and the need to decrease the infant mortality rate for African Americans in Los Angeles. She co-developed the community collaboration model to link physicians and nurses in professional societies with neighborhood businesses and organizations. Today, the initiative is used as a model in more than 100 communities throughout the United States. She has changed structure and implemented policies to break down barriers and reduce health disparities so more people can lead healthier lives. One of Dr. Burns Bolton's sponsors, Dr. Catherine Alicia Georges, will tell us more.
Linda and I being friends, personal friends, since the 70s. We met in 1971 at a Black nurses meeting, and we have been friends ever since. We just seem to have hit it off, and we've sustained that friendship from that day. I was the president of the National Black Nurses before she became the president. We worked together on the board of the National Black Nurses. We've done research together. We've done health literacy. We developed together the National Black Nurses Community Collaboration Model that's used in community work throughout the country. And Linda always says, anything you want to do, Alicia, don't let anybody dissuade you. You can do it. And that's the way she's been, not just with me, but with members of my family and with all her friends and with her staff. Linda has worked her way up to being one of the top nurse executives in this country, and I may venture to say internationally. What she has done to promote nursing is she, within her own institution, has nurtured and promoted nurses to positions of influence. Linda has been involved in community, and not just in the city of Los Angeles, but in her tenure as president of the National Black Nurses in communities across the country. Linda coming in as the co-chairperson of the Future of Nursing committee at the National Academy of Medicine really let those who did not know her know what she has done in advancing nursing in this country. Because what Linda talks about is human caring, and she thinks that's where nurses are the experts in human caring. One of the things that Linda has done, and she tried to not let anybody know, she finds these young people who may be having some financial hardships, and Linda makes sure that they get enough money to pay for their tuition. And that's the kind of thing she does. She makes sure that the human caring permeates her entire institution under her leadership. Linda is a phenomenal woman and deserves every award, and this is one that I know she will be so greatly honored to receive.
Okay, you couldn't be asleep already. Thank you, President Berkowitz, for your kind words and for this tremendous honor. I'm humbled to receive the Academy's Living Legend Award. My nominators, Catherine Alicia Georges, Sue Hassmiller, who unfortunately could not be here tonight, and Rita Ray are very dear friends, and I'm eternally grateful for their support. Throughout my professional career, I have worked to engage others from across all walks of life, and indeed it does take engaging individuals where they are about this work of trying to advance humankind. I have sought grace for each action taken to support the work of nursing, which I firmly believe is human caring. The willingness to give of self, to be open to all opportunities, to be of use to others, to be gracious when disappointments occur, and they will, and to always, always be thankful for God's love. I am thankful that I choose to love, that I choose to give of self to demonstrate kindness to others, without regard of who their backgrounds are. I believe in an equitable, inclusive, and diverse society. I hold close to my heart grace for all the life's moments. I am thankful for the many colleagues and fellows that are here tonight and those that are not here, the ones that I've had the opportunity to work with over the last several decades. My recognition is your recognition. Because we've all said that we're willing to go beyond that is just us, the individual, to move to try to promote the notion of human caring throughout the world. That, to me, is the essence of nursing. I want to thank Dr. Bernice Coleman and Dr. Jane Swanson for joining me tonight from Cedars-Sinai. I also wanted to thank my family who could not be here due to illness. And thank you to Cedars-Sinai for supporting this event. And thank you to all the organizations who are supporting me, including the American Academy of Nursing, the American Organization of Nurse Executives, the American Nurses Association, the National League for Nursing, and the National Black Nurses Association. And I thank you to the board members and staff of the Academy for this honor and recognition. May you all enjoy grace for the moment in your lives. Thank you.
Our next living legend to be recognized is Ann Wolbert Burgess. Dr. Ann Burgess is a pioneer in psychiatric mental health nursing whose groundbreaking work in caring for victims of violence has led to the development of forensic nursing as a specialty. Trained at the doctoral level in psychiatric mental health nursing, Dr. Burgess's contributions to nursing have been a catalyst for societal change in the systems that care for victims, as well as those that apprehend and prosecute offenders. Dr. Burgess ensures future victims of rape and violence will benefit from her knowledge by preparing a new generation of nurse specialists in forensic nursing, both nationally and abroad. Dr. Burgess employs innovative teaching methods to best prepare students in forensic and psychiatric mental health nursing, including virtual crime scenes based on real-life cases. A professor of psychiatric mental health nursing at Boston College's Connell School of Nursing, Dr. Burgess's research began in the 1970s when she co-founded one of the first hospital-based crisis counseling programs at Boston City Hospital. The hospital's counseling service broadened the care and provided to survivors from simply treatment in the emergency room to follow-up and crisis intervention. Being the first program to work closely with the police department and the court system, it became a model that was adopted across the United States. She and sociologist Linda Lytle Holmstrom studied women and children who came into the Boston City Hospital emergency room in order to investigate the effects of sexual violence, as well as the impact that the journey through the criminal justice system had on victims. Their seminal 1974 American Journal of Psychiatry publication, The Rape Trauma Syndrome, began to give voice to victims of sexual assault and abuse. The publication established the validity of the rape trauma syndrome, which has gained admissibility in more than 300 U.S. appellate court decisions. Dr. Burgess saw early on that the policy arena must be a priority if treatment of survivors was to improve. Her contributions led her to become a trusted colleague and resource for local, state, and national law enforcement and criminal justice leaders, including the U.S. Surgeon General's team that focuses on adolescent health. From 1976 to 1980, Dr. Burgess served as the chairperson of the Advisory Committee to the National Center on Rape, Prevention, and Control at the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Dr. Burgess's research has produced procedural and policy changes at the FBI Academy. A sought-after expert in the courtroom, Dr. Burgess has delivered testimony in many high-profile cases. Dr. Burgess's unrelenting advocacy for survivors has led her to chair and participate in numerous national interdisciplinary committees that focus on improving the health of victims of violence, including chair of the 1996 National Research Council's Task Force on Violence Against Women. Often the only nurse present on these committees, Dr. Burgess provided a powerful force on behalf of survivors. Continuing to create new programs and innovative programs, Dr. Burgess has recently investigated elder abuse in nursing homes, sex abuse in the military, and cyber stalking and internet sex crimes. Her development of courses at the Uniformed Services University of the Health Sciences will influence the standard of care for identifying and treating survivors of sexual assault in the U.S. military. Let's hear more from Dr. Maureen McCausland, one of AAN's sponsors, as well as her daughter, fellow Elizabeth Burgess Dowdle.
The work that we're celebrating with AAN Burgess was not simply a flash in the pan or something that might have helped with promotion and tenure. This is something that is personal to AAN, and it's that connection with patients, families, and the people who care for them as they go through a difficult time. I met her when she was just completing her original research study of victims of sexual violence at Boston City Hospital, and I was a staff nurse in the pediatric emergency room. AAN is an extraordinary role model to nurses and to our profession because of her groundbreaking work in creating an area of scholarly inquiry and clinical practice related to survivors of sexual abuse. She also did interprofessional practice long before that word was coined and really role modeled for an entire generation of nurses how to practice differently and how to study clinical phenomena in a way that was meaningful to patients. She was also inspirational in the fact that if something was not going well with the Boston Police Department in those days, we went after that and looked at a way to improve things, to get to know the police detectives, to help them understand what their behavior sometimes meant in the life of a victim, and then the same thing with the court system. I think that AAN is so deserving of this award because of her sustained contribution over decades to the field. She's very humble. She does not look for credit about the change that she's helped foster, and she has continued to produce. A current project that she's very invested in is care and health promotion for wounded warriors, for example. So she doesn't stop. She didn't have one great accomplishment. She's had many over the course of a lifetime.
Congratulations from your 4 children and their spouses and your 11 grandchildren and your extended family. You are a legend indeed. We are so excited and we are so thrilled. We are so proud of you. Mom, you're extraordinary, and we love you very, very much. I guess something that she's done that has impacted my life is her inclusion of people. That's a life lesson. Everyone has value. Everyone. Everyone's important. And I think that's had a big impact, that everyone is worthwhile. As a fellow in the American Academy of Nursing, it is spectacular to see her as a living legend. I know that face when I go off that escalator. There she is. I know that face. I know that person. It's wonderful. It's really wonderful.
Please join us.
Thank you all so much. Oh my goodness. I must thank my sponsors. I wouldn't be here without them. Maureen McCausland, who you just seen, Susan Gennaro, my dean, and Susan Kelly. Thank you all so much. And my daughter, Elizabeth. Oh my goodness, where'd you get those pictures? I want to do a couple of backstories, because I'm often asked, how did I ever get into this line of clinical study? And that's a very good question. So I'll answer that. And then the second is, how did I get involved with the FBI? Quantico, and I'll tell you that. The short answer is nurses. Nurses got me into this. Let me take you back to the early 1970s, minding my own business at Boston College, doing my work, being very busy, and Linda Holmstrom, the Department of Sociology, called up and said she wanted to come talk to me. Well, that's okay with me, that's fine, she came over. And Linda had just finished her major dissertation study, if you can believe, on 2 career families. That was big news in the early 70s. She made the Wall Street Journal. So anyway, Linda was looking for a new topic, and so I said, sure, I'd listen. I didn't know what else she was doing, so she went through a couple of topics, and one caught my attention, and it was on the subject of rape. And I said, Linda, what's going on about that? And she said, it's going to be a big issue for women. They were having these consciousness-raising groups. In those days, it was called CR groups. I don't know whether that was supposed to be a secret code or what, but at any rate, she was listening to this, and she said it's going to be very, very important for women. So I thought, oh, okay. I still couldn't get why she was seeing me. And I said, well, that's a good subject. Are you going to study it? And she says, I've been trying to. She says, I can't find any rape victims. And I thought, well, that's a problem. How can you study a population if you can't find them? So she said, well, I've been to the court, I can't find them there, but she says, I hear they go to hospitals. That clicked. Oh, hospitals, I'm a nurse. Nurses know hospitals, that must be why she's here. So I said, well, how can I help you? And she said, well, I got to find some. So we made a plan, and I would write a letter. In those days, you had to write a letter, put it in an envelope, mail it. So I sent out, now Boston has a lot of major hospitals, a lot of them. So I wrote lots of letters, I mailed them, and then guess what? Nothing. Nothing happened. So I thought, well, what do we do now? So we had plan B. I would telephone. In those days, you picked up the phone, you dialed. So I dialed all these nurses. Everybody was very polite. They took my call, but they said they couldn't help me. And I said, well, why? And they said, we have to have the medical director's permission. Yep. And I thought, so this was a project that wasn't even going to get off the ground. I looked at my list one more time, and I realized there was one hospital nurse director that I hadn't called. And I recognized her name, and it was Anne Hargraves. Annie Hargraves at City of Boston, but her title was this big, long title. She was the Executive Director of Health and Hospital, City of Boston. So I thought, maybe Ann didn't recognize my name, because Ann had been my psychiatric nursing instructor from Boston University, and my name had changed. I had married since then, so I thought, I'll call up Ann. So I get her secretary. I said, do you think Mrs. Hargraves would take a call from Penny Wolbert? I got an immediate answer. Ann got on the phone. She said, hey, Penny, how you doing? What's new? Blah, blah, blah. I said, Ann, did you get my letter? Pause. Anyway, she said, this is a great idea. She says, we don't give any services for victims coming in, and we have a lot of victims coming in. She says, if you're willing to do the victim counseling, you can come. We set up a meeting. Lots of people were there, and that's how it all started. If it hadn't been for Ann Hargraves giving me a break to get in and get something set up where we would do a service. This was not just coming in, talking to people, and leaving. So I did the victim counseling. Linda went to court with the victims, and over 1 year, we saw 146 people. By the halfway mark, we were now seeing PD walk-in, that they were having problems with children coming in. So that's how that started. So that was getting in and doing the study. So meanwhile, we were writing up our results, and one day I get this, my research assistant, Anna, stood at my door, and she said, you got a phone call. And I said, oh, okay, we'll just take it. I'm really very busy. Please take a message, and I'll call him back. And Anna just stood there, and she gave me this really strange look, and she whispered to me, it's the FBI. My heart started racing, the sweat poured, my autonomic nervous systems kicked in. I thought, oh my God, what's the matter? So I said, okay. So I took the phone call. Now, at the FBI, they give you special lectures on how to intimidate people over the phone. First, they identify themselves. This was Roy Hazelwood. I'm an supervisor, FBI agent at FBI Academy in Quantico, Virginia. I said nothing. Then they asked to verify your name. Are you Ann Burgess? Did you write an article in the American Journal of Nursing called The Rape Victim in the Emergency Room? I thought, yes. And then they say why they have called you. I'd like to invite you down to the FBI Academy to give us a lecture on this topic. And I said, well, why not? Why not? And that was it. That started a very important relationship that my husband, Alan Burgess, helped me with, because at that time, to get into Quantico was a really big deal in terms of you had to go to Washington Drive and all that. So they had an air base at Quantico, and so he had to get all his instrument ratings and up, and so that we could fly in there and do our work with the agents. Now, how did they get my name? So I said to Roy one time, I said, Roy, where'd you hear about me? Or how'd you get my name? And he said, I was doing a road school. The FBI do road schools. I was out in LA, Los Angeles, and it was the LA Police Department. And this one detective working juvenile, I was talking to them about, I had this new assignment. William Webster was head of the FBI. And there had come an edict where they had to train all of the law enforcement. And so FBI had to do the main training. And he says, I've been appointed to do this. I don't know anything about it. Do you know anything? And Rita Connect, who was a juvenile detective and also a RN, a real nurse, as Claire Fagan would say. Rita on weekends would work in the emergency room because she wanted to keep her skills up. And she happened to be reading the American Journal of Nursing. And she said, when Roy said that, she said, there's some nurse out on the East Coast. Why don't you give her a call? And Roy said, well, give me the information, which he did. And that's how that happened. Now, that was really, really important, because what the FBI was doing at that time at the Academy was doing the profiling. And the profiling was where they would come and they would have on these big tables all these crime scenes. And they were trying to behaviorally profile what type of person that could be. And it was only a couple years ago that I was talking to John Douglas, who was unit chief at the behavioral science unit at that particular time. And I said to John, I said, how do we really kind of get together in all of this? And he said, you know, you came down and you were talking about one of your new projects. I was working with the team from Robert Wood Johnson had funded us to do a heart attack study, return to work after heart attack. And he said, the way you were talking about how you were analyzing the data, said that gave me some really good ideas on how we could look at characteristics in the crime scene. And that was really, really important because it showed that one discipline, totally different, nursing, could give to law enforcement some ideas on how to work. And that was really, really important. So for me, I now could understand the victim. I needed to understand what it was that had injured the victim. Just like in medicine and nursing, when you have a pneumonia, you need to know whether it's a viral or it's a bacterial so you can get the right medicine or the right treatment or the right intervention. And so that's what we started doing and developing the intervention based on the type of person that had injured the victim. So it was really a win-win for both. So in closing, I just want to thank all of you who have worked all the years. Many of you have been on the journey with me, and I want you to all keep going and keeping up your service to victims. They are very important, had been voiceless at the time when we started, and I thank you all for your service. And my family, my 4 children, Elizabeth Eusine, Benton, Clayton, and Sarah, baby Sarah. There is one other quick backstory. When we were at Boston City Hospital, I had just finished my 4th child, little baby Sarah, and Linda was pregnant with her first child. And we would interface with the 4 residents. They would do the residency that, you know, that's, I guess maybe they still do it that way. And so there were 4 residents, so we'd see them every night. We always went in the middle of the night. We had to work during the day at our regular jobs, and then we had to go, they'd call us, we'd go in. And Linda was becoming more and more pregnant. This was like May. And Ken Edlin, who was one of the OB-GYN doctors, took me aside one time and said, your partner, she's pregnant. And I thought, my heavens, he's a OB-GYN. I hope he can recognize that she's pregnant. But I played it very straight, and I said, well, yes. And he said, but you and your partner are nuns from Boston College. And I could see the headlines. Isn't that a great story? That's true. Okay, thank you all very, very much for such a wonderful honor.
Our third living legend to be recognized is Dr. Colleen Conway Welsh. Dr. Conway Welsh's contributions to nursing go hand in hand with her contributions to individuals, communities, and country. Dr. Conway Welsh began her nursing career as a labor and delivery nurse, followed by midwifery. Her commitment to achieving successful outcomes transcended healthy births and became the hallmark of her nursing career. Dr. Conway Welsh earned her doctorate at NYU as a practicing midwife. Viewing this accomplishment as a complement to her clinical skills as compared to an opportunity to forego her clinical practice, Dr. Conway Welsh became one of a very few doctorally prepared and clinically active nurses. In 1980, Dr. Conway Welsh joined the University of Colorado faculty, where she led midwifery and was later appointed director of the Nurse Midwifery Graduate Program. Dr. Conway Welsh continued to champion faculty practice for its value in advancing nursing practice. In 1984, Vanderbilt University recruited her to serve as professor and then as Vanderbilt University's Dean of the School of Nursing, a position she held for 29 years. While at Vanderbilt, Dr. Conway Welsh expanded the possible pathways through which to enter the nursing profession. Non-nurses were admitted into a master's level curriculum, a PhD, and a combined MSN MBA. Programs were launched, a DNP program was initiated, and Vanderbilt became the only nursing program to participate in a synchronous learning network. To ensure nursing benefited from all the talents of all who wished to contribute, Dr. Conway Welsh developed policies on student loans, scholarships, research and traineeships, and professional organization sponsorships to address racial, ethnic, and economic disparities. Notably, she is one of the founders of the Friends of the National Institute for Nursing Research at NIH. Equally committed to improving outcomes for individuals and communities outside of nursing, and long before the term social determinants of health entered our vocabulary, she championed projects to help children, empower women to combat domestic abuse, assist residents struggling in rural areas, aid vulnerable newborns, and address the needs of the economically poor. The citizens of Tennessee and the residents of Nashville are the beneficiaries of Dr. Conway Welsh's efforts to provide a healthy and thriving community for all. She served on the Tennessee Board of Nursing and was an appointee to the Commission on the Future of TennCare. In Nashville, she brought about improved K-12 education, the Nashville Symphony, the Hospital Hospitality House, expanded Habitat for the Humanity, and the Nashville Humane Society. At a time when many health professionals remained silent, Dr. Conway Welsh had the courage and compassion to provide input to President Reagan's Commission on the HIV epidemic, never forgetting that policies impact real people. Dr. Conway Welsh offered her nursing perspective on a number of national commissions and councils, including the 1998 National Bipartisan Commission on the Future of Medicare, HHS Secretary Tommy Thompson's 2002 Secretary's Council on Public Health Preparedness, and President Bush's Board of Regents for the Uniformed Services University of the Health Sciences from 2006 to 2010. Colleen Conway Welsh's contributions to individuals, communities, and our country through her service on boards, commissions, and councils is a premier example of what can be achieved by the Institute for Nursing Leadership, an academy initiative to which Dr. Conway Welsh has offered her time, talent, and resources. And now Dr. Catherine Gillis, one of Dr. Conway Welsh's sponsors, has more to add.
I first met Colleen at the Catholic University of America when I was a student studying for a master's degree. She was a few years older than I was, and I thought she walked on water because I had never met anybody who was close to my age who yet had a PhD. I was very impressed by her ambitions, by her joy of life. Colleen Conway Welsh is a woman of uncommon vision, someone who is able to see the gaps and fill them. She is fearless in her ability to go after opportunity. She has always managed to get nursing to the table on behalf of some important cause. Colleen was the dean of Vanderbilt School of Nursing for 29 years. And during the lengthy time that she was there, she was able to really get them out of financial difficulty very quickly. She was one of the first to develop the innovative programs that are now fairly characteristic of nursing, bringing in non-nurses or moving beginning nurses quickly through to the graduate level. And she's very respected on that campus. She was respected as a leader on the campus, not only the dean of the School of Nursing. In my world, there aren't enough people who make the case that nursing should be involved in places that they're not yet involved. And Colleen has done this work and done it very, very well. Colleen has a good business sense, Colleen has been able to raise a lot of money. She's been able to be in environments that many nurses never have the opportunity to enter. And she has, in those environments, represented nursing quite well. They attribute exceptionalism to Colleen, and although today we celebrate her exceptionalism, I think what she's also tried to do is help people understand that the kinds of interests that she has and the abilities that she brings are not so unique, that in fact many nurses have the opportunity to make those kinds of contributions. She's an American original. Colleen has combined a love of people, clinical care, pressing the flesh, developing relationships to bring about excellent policy that advances the health of the American public. Colleen, from her early days, has always liked fast cars. Colleen still drives a fast car, but she doesn't drive it quite as fast anymore. She's always known how to have fun, how to appreciate what's going on around her, and how to do good, hard work at the same time. Clara Barton made the mistake of founding the Red Cross and almost staying too long. A good leader, and Colleen is one of them, gets something set and then turns it over to other people, and she's done that repeatedly.
Well, I'm pleased and honored and humbled to accept this award and also to join the recipients of this award, past and present and future, whom I have long admired and respected. Thank you to the American Academy of Nursing and to those who sponsored me and supported my nomination. I want to give a special thank you to two role models, Dr. Jean Watson from the University of Colorado, who is here tonight, and there would be no bridge program at Vanderbilt, except that I had worked at Colorado under Jean's direction, and I was able to make her dream come true at Vanderbilt because I did not have to deal with a state legislature. And also to Dr. Ruth Lubick. Ruth is also here tonight. And Ruth, I do want to say that the nurse midwifery practice that we started at Vanderbilt now does over 3,000 deliveries a year. And thank you. And the Vanderbilt nurse midwifery program is #1 in the country, according to U.S. News and World Report. It's been a long road to this podium this evening. It's been filled with many opportunities, a few disasters, twists in the road, but great, great adventures, most of which I can talk about. But I do want to say that nursing has been very, very good to me. I can't imagine not being a nurse. And I'd like to also recognize Cherry Ames. Because she also bears a lot of responsibility. But mostly, I'd like to ask you and caution you to take time to enjoy the journey. It's a lot of fun to be a nurse. Thank you.
Our fourth living legend to be recognized this evening is Joyce J. Fitzpatrick. Dr. Fitzpatrick's stellar career in nursing spans 5 decades and is filled with extraordinary contributions to nursing. She is known throughout the world as a nursing theorist, educator, and leader. Through her work with universities and health ministries in Asia, Africa, Australia, Latin America, Europe, and the Middle East, she has facilitated the growth of the nursing profession on 5 continents. As Dean of the Francis Payne Bolton School of Nursing at Case Western Reserve University, she made extraordinary changes to a school already known for excellence. One of these changes was her expectation that all faculty should be involved in research and disseminate their findings. Dr. Fitzpatrick also expanded nursing opportunities by introducing nurse midwifery and developing a nurse anesthesia program. A prolific writer, Dr. Fitzpatrick has put forth exceptional efforts to disseminate nursing research. She has written or edited more than 70 books and is an 18-time winner of the American Journal of Nursing Book of the Year Award. Her classic text, which she co-authored with Ann Wall, Conceptual Models of Nursing, Analysis and Applications, as well as 2 other publications, Annual Review of Nursing Research and Theory in Nursing, Applications to Research and Practice, which she co-authored with G. McCarthy, have pushed forward the frontiers of nursing science. Dr. Fitzpatrick is a theorist who has been interested in holding nursing up to an introspective mirror. Early in her career, she proposed the life perspective rhythm model, inspired by her close friend, Martha Rogers, to capture the holistic nature of nursing. This conceptual model has been used to guide research by students around the world. In recent years, Dr. Fitzpatrick has explored the meaningfulness of nurses' work as it relates to satisfaction, turnover, leadership, engagement, and empowerment. Her national studies of critical care and emergency room nurses have advanced knowledge about modern nursing dynamics in highly acute work settings and shed light on building a committed and empowered nursing workforce. Dr. Fitzpatrick has reached out to vulnerable populations around the world who are in greatest need of nursing's holistic approach to health. While Dean of the Francis Payne Bolton School of Nursing at Case Western Reserve, she founded the World Health Organization Collaborating Center for Nursing. Since 2004, she has served as a global nursing consultant with the Dreyfus Health Foundation, leading nursing programs in 15 countries. In collaboration with the Case School of Medicine, she continues her work in Uganda, where she has designed a series of educational interventions focused on HIV/AIDS. Dr. Fitzpatrick has led several nursing organizations, written extensively about nursing leadership. She helped create the Midwest Nursing Research Society and served as its first president. She led our academy as president from 1997 to 1999 during a critical time of organizational change. An excellent fundraiser who more than quadrupled her school's endowment during her time as dean, Dr. Fitzpatrick has also served as chair of the board of trustees for the American Nurses Foundation. Dr. Joyce Fitzpatrick has combined her commitment to advancing the science of nursing with her extraordinary leadership to build a lasting legacy that will impact our profession for many years. Dr. Noel Pender, one of Dr. Fitzpatrick's sponsors, will tell us more.
I'm delighted that the American Academy of Nursing this year is honoring Joyce Fitzpatrick as a living legend. Joyce deserves to be a living legend because of her absolutely remarkable contributions to nursing. Joyce and I go way back to early in our careers when we were both very passionate. I met her for the first time at New York University at a theorist conference where the big minds of nursing at that time met to discuss the future of theory in nursing. And I was immediately impressed with Joyce in terms of how bright she was. Joyce has had many influences on nursing throughout her career. Began very early when she and I worked together along with other nurses to establish the Midwest Nursing Research Society. She has served as the president of the Academy. For 15 years, she was dean of the School of Nursing at Case Western University. She built faculty research programs by providing both emotional and physical support, and she built an endowment to move nursing education ahead at Case Western Reserve. Joyce has had a absolutely fantastic impact both nationally and internationally in nursing. She has been a consultant to over 20 countries. She has been extremely supportive of the development of nursing education at all levels within multiple countries. Without Joyce, nursing education in many countries would be far behind what it is now. So she has indeed impacted the history of nursing with many enduring contributions. She has constantly been a support in terms of our common interest in developing conceptual models and theoretical models in nursing, and she has particularly inspired me in terms of her mentoring capability. Her passion for nursing that she developed early on in her career that has never let up. I call her a turbo force for nursing because she has had major impact on the history of nursing. She is very deserving of this prestigious recognition of a living legend.
Good evening, colleagues. I am so honored to be recognized today along with 4 other living legends. And I want to acknowledge, first of all, my 3 sponsors, Dr. Nola Pender, who you heard from, Dr. Ada Sue Hinshaw, and Dr. May Weichel, all 3 sponsors themselves living legends. Thank you. I want to thank the American Academy of Nursing, all of you fellows, especially the Board of Directors for selecting me as a living legend. I want to acknowledge my mentor, Dr. Grace Sills, who is with us in spirit, and in fact, together, Grace and I sponsored a new fellow just before Grace's death, my colleague, Dr. Mary Jane Smith, who's being inducted on Saturday. So believe me, Grace is here in spirit. I also want to acknowledge all of my students and former students who are here, my colleagues from the American Nurses Foundation, the American Nurses Association, the National League for Nursing. I like to be involved in organizations. Now, many of you have met my daughters because they have grown up with nursing. In fact, when I became Dean of the School of Nursing at Case Western Reserve, they were 2 and 3. So they ran the hallways, and I'd like to ask Maria and Regina to please stand and thank you for always supporting me. I have another special family guest here, my cousin Sue, RN. And Sue has been someone who's kept me grounded in the clinical practice of nursing. So Sue, thank you for all you've done. And most especially, I'd like to thank my brother John. So John is here, and I want to tell you that most of you think of me as a leader. I am a follower. I'm a typical second-born. I have followed John my whole life. John said to me, "Come to Georgetown." I went to Georgetown and became a nurse because I wanted to be in Washington because he said it was the most exciting place to be at the time. John finished his doctorate before he was 30, so I finished my doctorate before I was 30. John became an academic, and so I became an academic. John is a political scientist, so I learned about policy and politics. And most recently, in the last 3 years, I have learned from John about the power of resilience, the power of positivity in life, and how to take the best from each day. Thank you, John. Please join me in recognizing my brother, John. There's one other person I'd like to recognize here, and that's Colleen Conway. Colleen and I have also followed Colleen in my professional life. Colleen was my big sister class at Georgetown. She and I worked together on the labor and delivery floor when we were students at Georgetown during the summer to make some extra money. Colleen was a year ahead of me at NYU, and we were sister deans. And so thank you, Colleen, for all you've done to lead the way for me. And to my students, all of you, present and former and future. One of the things we all learned at Georgetown from our then President Kennedy was, to those who are given much, much is expected. We have given. We hope you have met we have met your expectations, and we look forward to what you have to contribute. So thank you all for celebrating with us. I'm very, very pleased to receive this honor. Thank you.
Now, our final living legend to be recognized tonight is Martha N. Hill. Dr. Hill has made amazing contributions to the field of cardiovascular health through her clinical practice, groundbreaking research, and tireless work to educate future nurses and leadership in the policy arena. Working to reduce the effects of cardiovascular disease, Dr. Hill has conducted important research as a PI, investigator, collaborator, and mentor on more than 30 NIH-funded grants. She is focused on preventing and controlling hypertension, particularly in populations with significant health disparities. She is especially well known for her research on urban African American young men. Her model of care, featuring nurse practitioners and teams of community health workers, proved highly effective and became the model of care used across the United States in urban settings. Dr. Hill's publications and presentations about young African American men and hypertension prompted invitations for her to present and consult internationally. Her work in the United States led her to important research on the barriers to high blood pressure care and control among Black South Africans. Dr. Hill's work in South Africa was published in the American Journal of Hypertension, Ethnicity and Disease, as well as other journals, prompting her community-based model to be disseminated around the globe. As Dean of the Johns Hopkins University School of Nursing, Dr. Hill played an influential role in developing the first full-time PhD program for nurses in China. With China's resources for PhD nursing education in the early 2000s being limited, Dr. Hill was instrumental in creating a collaborative model between the Peking Medical University and Hopkins that was funded for 5 years by the China Medical Board. The partnership program graduated its first cohort of PhDs in 2010. Always bringing her expertise, energy, and enthusiasm to the table, Dr. Hill has held leadership roles in many organizations. 2 leadership experiences stand out above the others. Since its founding in 1924, national leadership positions in the American Heart Association were traditionally held by physicians. In 1997, Dr. Martha Hill became the first, and to this day, the only, nurse elected president of the American Heart Association. From launching the Go Red campaign that emphasized the importance of heart disease for women, to ensuring that the AHA's support for the ban on tobacco products became a #1 priority, what transpired over Dr. Hill's presidency transformed every level of the organization. Dr. Hill's impact on policy was also felt in the early 2000s when she co-led the National Academy of Medicine's Committee on Understanding and Eliminating Racial, Ethnic Disparities in Healthcare. The work of this committee led to the public's new appreciation for the importance of socioeconomic determinants of disease and the role of healthcare providers can play in reducing these disparities. Alongside many of Dr. Hill's extraordinary accomplishments to science and nursing is her equally important success as a mentor. She has been and continues to be an incredible role model to students, junior faculty, and colleagues alike. Dr. Kathleen Dracup, one of Dr. Hill's sponsors, has more to add.
Martha Hill and I met in 1980. We were both standing in a corridor in a hotel in Hawaii. We had both been invited as the nursing tokens on a cardiology program. All the other speakers were physicians. Martha and I think, had heard about each other but had never met. And so we talked about some of the challenges of working in cardiology, which was a very physician-dominated field, and how difficult it was to often be the only nurse representing our profession in these various cardiology conferences. And I just immediately liked her, her honesty, her warmth, her humor. I just found incredibly engaging. Martha was definitely on the frontier of identifying problems of interest to nurses, becoming a very well-known, well-respected researcher, as well as an expert clinician. She's a nurse practitioner, so she brought a lot of clinical acumen to every conversation. And then she went on to become, in 1997, the first president of the American Heart Association, which is a 30,000 plus member organization that had always had a physician as the president. So I think that nurses identified with Martha. She was incredibly generous to everyone coming up through the graduate programs. And I think that those qualities of generosity and wisdom have really made her a model for nurses. Martha has inspired me through her good humor, her wisdom, and her general support. Martha and I both came with families to our PhD study. So she was married, she has 2 boys who are now 2 men, and we were both of us juggling a lot of different responsibilities. So Martha was very inspiring to me because I saw her doing everything well. When she was in her professional role, she seemed really committed to it and not distracted, and yet I knew she had a lot of other obligations as well. So she's really been an inspiration for me through my 40 plus years of being a nurse. Through her more than 4 decades of nursing, she has shown the intelligence, the wisdom, and the commitment that we all are so proud of in the past living legends that have been named. And she is clearly a model for the next generation of nurses coming up. So she is still very active, she's still committed to the profession, she speaks for nurses. I think Martha really has contributed an amazing amount to both the nursing profession and to healthcare, and therefore is very deserving of the Living Legend Award.
Good evening, everyone. Well, Kathy Dracup, I remember meeting you, standing next to you at a check-in at the Honolulu Hotel where we were going to that meeting, and I heard you say your name, and I went, "You're Kathy Dracup?" And she looked down and said, "And who are you?" And we agreed after we checked in that it was time for Mai Tais and to begin an extraordinary friendship. So Kathy, thank you for those remarks, and I also want to acknowledge Claire Fagan and Nancy Fugate Woods, the other sponsors for this recognition. I'm very honored to be a part of this cohort. To each of you, I have known you, admired you, and enjoyed working with you. And I would add to those past and future. I want to acknowledge all of my colleagues, mentors and mentees, colleagues in research, colleagues in faculty, and colleagues in volunteer work. Perhaps most of all, I want to acknowledge my family, my 2 sons, Justin and Paul, who are here with Patrice, my daughter-in-law, and recognize the #1 man in my life for 47 years, who was my greatest champion. I think nursing is a stunning platform career. The breadth, the depth, the variety of roles and settings and opportunities and expertise. Each of us can find a niche, and as we grow and evolve, as the world grows and evolves, as circumstances change, we can adapt, tailor our niche. This is extraordinary. One is never bored, and the opportunities to contribute just grow and grow. I've always been guided by certain values. And I would like to say, whether as a student or as an employee or a volunteer, I've been fortunate enough, there's something wired that says, focus on the mission. Learn the mission, and if it is compatible and congruent with your deepest values and what you care about, then go for it. And whether it was at Hopkins or in the American Heart Association or at Research America or the IOM, now the NAM, or Sigma Theta Tau, the opportunities are unlimited. And let me just add an aside edit to Kathy's comment about my being the only nurse president of the American Heart Association. I am thrilled to tell you that while I was the first, I am not the only. And this is a sign of when you break the glass ceiling and the walls start to crumble, there's opportunity for all. The nursing process, it's about problem identification and analysis, planning, implementation, and then evaluation again. This has guided my thinking and my work, whether it's been as a student, as a faculty member, as a senior administrator, or a volunteer. Be strategic, be mission-focused, be positive. Do not accept no for an answer, and say, what would it take? And I think that's the core of nursing. What would it take to make things better for patients and for the healthcare system? I'm very honored and I'm humbled to be a part of this group. I thank the Academy, I thank the sponsors, and I recognize all of you as colleagues and welcome the opportunity to continue to work with everyone. Thank you very much.
Well, I don't know about you all, but I'm pretty proud to be a member of an organization that has members like you. Let's give them another round of applause. Have a wonderful night. Thank you.